Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Wednesday Wise webinar. My name is Sydney Konahia, and I'm the Senior Coordinator of Membership with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 60 minutes lined up for you this afternoon. Before we begin, just a couple of notes. We are recording today's webinar, and it'll be made available later this evening on community.franchise.org. And if you have any questions for today's speaker, please add them to the questions box, and Tom will address it towards the end of the session or throughout the session. So today's topic is the future of loyalty, why customers stay, and is brought to us by IFA's preferred vendor for payments and loyalty, Franchise Payments Network. Here to provide today's discussion is Tom Epstein, CEO of Franchise Payments Network. Tom launched FPN in 2006 with the sole focus of providing franchisors and their franchisees with top-tier payment processing, gift card, and loyalty solutions. Working with over 200 franchise brands, FPN has been ranked top franchise supplier in merchant services by Entrepreneur Magazine for 4 years in a row. A franchise owner himself, Tom's extensive industry experience includes serving on the IFA Supplier Forum Advisory Board, IFA Marketing and Technology Committee, chair of the IFA Data Security Subcommittee. He is a max donor for FranPack and is also a host of IFA's Franchise Business Network in Orlando, so he's a very busy person when it comes to IFA. Tom also serves on the Government Relations and Data Security committees for the Electronic Transactions Association. So just another thank you to Tom for joining us today and Franchise Payments Network for your sponsorship of today's webinar. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Tom to get things started.
Thanks, Sydney. I appreciate it. And thank you for that introduction. As Sydney said, yes, I'm the CEO founder of Franchise Payments Network, and Pollinate is our loyalty platform that we spun off from FPN about 3 years ago. Also with me today is Hassam, who's our Chief Marketing Officer. So I'm more of a payments and sales guy, and so if there's any marketing questions that are pretty specific to marketing, we may have Hassam chime in on those to help out. But I do want to say, that I do try to keep these things fairly casual. So if you guys have any questions, I believe Sydney gave you instructions as to how to ask them. I'm happy to stop at any point and answer questions, or we can hold them to the end as well, whatever is comfortable for you guys. So with anything, I did a presentation about a year ago on the future of currency and money. And so today we're going to talk about the future of loyalty programs and loyalty and rewards programs. And with anything, if you want to talk about the future, you kind of have to remember where you were in the past, right? So we have to really go kind of back to where did it all begin so that we can figure out where we are today and where we might be in the future. One of the funny stories we like to tell around our office is anytime we talk about loyalty to a new client and we're making a presentation to them about how loyalty might be a good fit for their brand, our guru of gift and loyalty always brings up this story about how American Airlines was the first real loyalty program, big business in the United States, and how they really defined loyalty for many, many years to come, and how that they set that up with earning points that could be redeemed for flights, and they had different tiers, whether you were a gold, silver, platinum member, those sort of things. And, big companies kind of followed their lead for 20 years or so. The American Airlines program was rolled out in 1981. And, they've made a few adjustments over the years, obviously, to level set the points and get the most productivity out of the program as they could. But a lot of the big companies out there, especially in travel and entertainment, have pretty much mirrored what American started. You think about Marriott, they pretty much do the same thing, and they've just rebranded their loyalty program to the Bonvoy program. But that's really kind of where retail loyalty started. But I always like to go, let's go all the way back, right? So And really, there's some arguments to be made that the first loyalty programs really were started in ancient Egypt. Back before there was even any currency or tender, what would happen is in Egypt, people would earn these clay tokens for things that they would do. So if they were working hard for the pharaohs, I guess, and they were doing their job, they would earn a reward. And it could be a clay token for a loaf of bread, or a clay token for a jug of beer, or whatever. The token itself would have an image of what that reward is that they would earn. And then even back then, they had kind of a tiered system where if you were, I don't know the terminology really for back then, but if you were, you were a commoner, you might get less tokens for the work that you did. And if you were in the middle class, you would get more. And if you were in that royalty class, you would get even more. And so they had already come up with this tiered program where you earn more rewards based on who you were and who you were in society. So that started thousands of years ago with the Egyptians. And we're still doing a lot of the same things today that were started back then. These tokens ultimately led toward the creation of currency in Egypt, which was one of the first true currencies out there. But if you think about it, it also is very similar to what we're doing today when you talk about crypto. So you have crypto that just doesn't even really exist. There's no coin or anything. It's there's no value to that piece of clay that you see on the screen. So it's just the value of whatever is behind it and the promise of whatever is to come with that. So a lot of the things that we're doing today really were generated way back in the day when we first started out. So you started with the Egyptians and the clay tokens. Then you started getting into more modern times where loyalty was just a collection of stamps, basically. The older folks in the crowd might remember S&H green stamps, where you would go to the grocery or the pharmacy or whatever, and you get a certain amount of green stamps based on how much money you spent. You put it in a little book, and then you could send it off to or order something from their catalog. It could be a toaster, it could be, dishes or silverware or whatever. But you're earning points based on your spend. That's still going on today. One of the first loyalty programs in the franchise space that really gained a lot of attraction was the Subway program, and it was just like S&H green stamps, right? Where they gave you a stamp every time you ordered a sandwich, and you stuck the little stamp on the card, and then once your card was filled up, you could bring it in for a free sandwich. I can't remember. I think it was like 10 stamps for a sandwich. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was just, you were rewarding people for doing something. So, if you came in 9 times and then you came in on the 10th time, you got that stamp. The next time after that, you would come in. Well, obviously, one of the challenges with these types of programs is it leaves the door open for a lot of fraud. There's a lot of ways that people could beat these programs. If you had a friend that worked at the Subway, not saying this ever happened, but the friend could possibly give you extra stamps that you didn't necessarily earn. Or you could borrow stamps from your friend who only goes there occasionally. You take their stamps, put them in your book, and now you've got a bigger book that gets you free sandwiches early. So that's kind of why a lot of people have been moving away from that over the years into a more electronic program. So what's going on today is we're kind of in a situation where we've moved away from these manual stamp programs into electronic programs, into programs where everything's tracked. The consumer is tracked on the platform as to how often they came in and what they might be purchasing, depending on how robust the connection is through the point of sale, whether you're getting that information or not. But you really, today, I see a lot of times where we talk about loyalty or we talk about rewards, we talk about that in the exact same breath, but it's not really. You could have a loyalty program that doesn't have rewards. or a rewards program that doesn't really create loyalty. And so you got to keep an eye on, what your goals are there. A lot of people think they have a loyalty program when really what they have is a communication program. So people sign up for, email campaign. So I'm in your loyalty program, so I put my email address in. And that's literally the only data point that we have on that individual. But we also can send them an email once a month or once a week or whatever with some promotion or whatever we want them to know about our brand. And does that create more loyalty? Maybe, but I think you already have that person's loyalty or they wouldn't have given you the email address, right? So it might create some loyalty to the brand, but overall, it's just keeping those people who are already loyal to your brand informed of what's going on. You're not changing any action. And the same can be said of rewards. So, you have these rewards programs where you do still give somebody a free sandwich or something after the 10th one, or a free haircut after the 10th one, or whatever. And I look at those and I go, is that really helping? Or are you just reducing or just increasing your cost of goods sold, because now you're having to pay for 11 out of the 10 sales, right? So I wonder if those change the consumer behavior. So one of the things that I always talk to people about when we're talking about either a loyalty rewards program is you want to reward people for doing something different that they haven't ever done before. So what you want to be able to do is to change the behavior. And how do you change that behavior? By rewarding them for doing those things that they haven't done, whether that's buy a dessert, whether that's come in more frequently so you can reach that next tier, whether it's, whatever it is that you're trying to promote and get them to do, you reward them for that, or reward them more for that, or reward them, for being a brand advocate and getting them to go out and bring in new people to your brand. So there's a lot of things that we look at, when we're looking at rewards programs, and how to get the customer to do something different that they have not done before. One of the bigger restaurant chains has a program that they call it Surprise and Delight. And I just wonder, does that change any action? So they've done a really good job getting a good percentage of their customers into the program, but the customer never really has an idea of how many points they have. They never know when they're going to get a reward. And every now and then when they come to the register and make a purchase, they get a free cookie. And they don't know why. They don't know what drove that reward. Their thing is surprise and delight. So they think, well, if occasionally I get a surprise, which is a free cookie or a free this or a free that, that creates a good environment for the customers. But you're not changing anything. You're not getting that customer to do anything different. So we really do. We look at different ways that we can incent that customer to do something that maybe they've never done before. So where are things going right now? So with the evolution of loyalty and rewards programs, everything is going electronic, everything's going mobile, and it's driving those customers to do things that they wouldn't normally do. So everybody, is familiar with, say, Starbucks, and they have a Starbucks app, or they've got a Dunkin' Brands app for Dunkin' Donuts. Well, we're really driving deeper into that with many different types of businesses. And just using the app alone is creating the loyalty that a customer would or a brand would want to see. Because in a lot of these apps, you have the ability to not only earn points and see how close you are to the next one. In this case, you can see on the screen of the iPhone, this person has 9 smiles until you get a $5 reward. So you know exactly where you stand as a consumer every time you open up the app and you're going to that business. But it also drives the consumer behavior, because you can preload a wallet within the app. So you're prepaying for the product before you've ever used it. And so by doing that, the customer is is more inclined to go a little bit out of their way to frequent your business. So imagine you're running a coffee shop, or in this case, a yogurt place, and you've got competition on the next corner. And as a consumer, you're driving by, and the first corner is the easiest one to get to, but you know you've got $20 or $30 on your mobile wallet. To you, it's free money because you've already paid for it. You're going to go the extra block and go to that other business in order to use that money that you've already prepaid for. So we're using technology here, not necessarily even points. We're using technology, which is the payment piece, to incite more loyalty into the program. I'm not 100% sure if this stat is correct or not, but we were talking to some people about this yesterday, and they had mentioned that they had done a survey with Starbucks, and there were 51% of their entire business is done through their app. So it's all been created through the technology that they're using. Is there anything special about their loyalty program or their rewards program where you get the little stars and stuff? No, I mean, it's the same as what anybody else is doing, but it's presented in a way that's convenient for the customer. So you're using technology to drive customer loyalty by making it a more convenient point of sale transaction, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. So then as we start looking at, okay, so what's next in loyalty? Where are we going? So the big places that we're going with loyalty really is more and more into the mobile world, right? It's more and more about capturing the data from the customers and using predictive analytics to figure out what that customer might do next, what they might want next. An example is, the deep data that you're getting from those customers. If you go back to, say, a yogurt shop, and you think about, well, the average cost of a bowl of yogurt is probably $4, but you're starting to see transactions from this particular customer of $12, $15, $16. Well, you can make some judgments about that this is a parent that has 2 or 3 kids that's taking the kids into the place all the time. And so now you can start saying, okay, well, how am I going to market to this parent who we know lives in this zip code, and we know they come in once a month? How can we get them in twice a month? We know they have kids. So is there some sort of promotion I can do that would be attractive for the kids? Make them tell the parent we need to go in, right? So there's a lot of things you can do around the data. So the data is really the important thing that we're looking at going forward is, how do we capture the stuff that you need as a brand that's important to you to help figure out what can we do to predict what that customer may do in the future, and where can we advertise to them differently to get that different action that we're looking for, whether it's coming in more often or spending more when they get there or referring your business, whatever it is. We're looking for different ways to use the data to help drive that communication to them. And the communication itself is being driven in a number of different ways right now. Through technology, we're able to do different things that we weren't able to do before. Obviously, we can email customers, we can text them if they opt in for that, we can do in-app messaging, but we can also do some really fun things around using GPS or geo-tracking and those sort of things, using beacon technology so we know when a customer is near, and we can send an offer to them when they're near. We can literally go on a map and draw a circle around an event that we know is going on. Imagine you're a wing place and you cater to Friday night high school football game, right? And you could literally draw a circle around the arena and say, hey, the next time the home team scores, we're going to give you 5 free wings of your favorite flavor or whatever. We give it away, but you got to come in and get it, right? So there are a lot of things that you can do with the technology that we have today that we couldn't do before, around using geo-tracking, around using beacon technology. We're using technology from the phone to have customers get new customers into the program, so they're introducing each other to the program. There's so many different avenues available to us today, and we're just exploring. Anytime that there's a new technology that comes up, we explore, okay, so how can we use that within a loyalty or a payment program and figure out what's the best way to make that consumer enablement a lot easier and a lot less friction to it. I think, during COVID, we all learned how to make things a lot less friction, and we went more mobile, and that helped move the needle, especially here in the United States, which was lagging behind most other countries in that technology. But we're now right up there with everybody else. So we talked a little bit about this. I probably moved past this slide, but you see, the beacon, the little light blue thing there is the beacon technology that if you put it in your store, if one of your customers with your app is near, it'll let that customer know. It'll send an in-app message or a text message or whatever to that person's phone to remind them to come in. So again, as we look at all the things that we're doing technology-wise today, we're using new technology, we're using cutting-edge technology, we're using beacons, we're using geofencing, we're using, in some cases, cryptocurrency to reward and NFTs and doing all these cool things to attach to the programs. But the base strategies have never changed. We're always doing the exact same things. So we're still back to that little clay token that we give somebody because they did something, and they did something that we want to reward them for, or we tiered it based on where they are in society. So where are they in the program? Are you a gold, silver, platinum, whatever? We have all of those abilities there to do that, but it's all the same thing. So I think a lot of people, they get afraid of technology, and they see these new technologies out there, and they're like, I'll never be able to figure it out. My franchisees will never be able to figure it out. But you know what? Just boil it down to the basics as to what that technology is going to do. And that's how you're going to be able to get your franchisees to adopt it. Make it easy for them. Give them the training that they need to do it, but show them why they're doing it. Show them the ROI. We do a lot of times, we'll do a beta test before we roll out to the chain, and we look at a baseline. What's their average ticket before there was a loyalty program? What was their volume before there was a loyalty program? How frequently did their typical customer come in? How much, so you set these baselines, and then you run a program for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, depending on what you think is, appropriate based on how often a customer normally would come in. And you run it against the baseline, and then getting that ROI out of it is the story that you're going to tell the rest of the franchisees when you roll it out. And it should be a no-brainer. If you know that the loyalty program costs X amount of dollars per location, and you can tell a story that in the 5-10 locations that we did, they averaged an increase of Y amount of dollars, whatever it is, then that's an easy story to tell to get them to adopt it. If it doesn't change those baseline numbers, then we all know we shouldn't have done that, right? So there was either something wrong with the program that needs to be tweaked, or it's just not a good fit for you. But at least we have that story to tell, and we're never in a situation where we're just pushing something out to franchisees that frankly are just going to look at the franchisor and say, hey, okay, so now I've got another fee that you're asking me to pay, another marketing fee or another whatever, wherever you want to put loyalty into that mix. But you've got to be able to tell that story to them about what they're going to get for it and what the end goal is. A lot of times we do see franchisors roll out programs and they don't completely explain the why to the franchisees as to why they're doing it. So, not only are you enhancing that consumer experience, but you're also getting more sales, which will convert to more royalties to the franchisor, of course. And you're making it a much more frictionless transaction for the customer. So the customers enjoy your brand more and come back more often. And that's pretty much it. I don't know, Sydney, if we have some questions.
Yes, we do. So one of the first questions we got, someone said their management and stores vary from loving the idea of a loyalty program to not wanting anything to do with one. How would you suggest that you get the management team to buy into moving forward with a loyalty program?
Well, I mean, I think it's the management team would either buy in or not buy in. At the launch, it's the franchisees. Some of them will either love it and some of them won't, or they won't want to do it. We always look at both gift card and loyalty as a marketing program. And we feel very strongly that any marketing program that you would have in one location, you need to have in every location for that consumer experience. So you would never see, certain things in a McDonald's here and not a McDonald's across town, right? So, and if you earn points in one place, you got to be able to redeem them somewhere else. And I think that's the piece that makes most franchisees nervous is, hey, I'm going to be the one who's getting the redemption of all these points, and somebody else is making the money off of it, while they capture the points with the sales. But the reality of it is, 90 to 95% of all points are burned at the same place they were earned, right? There are some areas where they're not. But back to the beginning is we look at it as a marketing program, and it should be national marketing. And I think it's in most FDDs, it'll tell the franchisees that you have to participate in these things. So, I mean, we highly recommend that you point to that. And, if you're talking to us about payment processing or something, we just give you a good rate, and the franchisees can either choose this or not choose this. It's not going to hurt your business. But in a loyalty program, I think you have to, because you have to keep that consistency with the customer. And if you have a program in one location, it's got to work in the other, and you've got to have the points. But it's important that you also have a vendor who has the back end reporting to make sure that the franchisees know that they're okay and they're whole. So you should get a weekly or a monthly report that shows this is how many points were earned in your location, this is how many were burned in your location, or if it's a gift card, we bought that many, we redeemed that many. And then there needs to be a true up in the back end so that if they are accepted or burned in another store, that the original store gets the credit. I hope that kind of answered the question. I don't know, it's a pretty long way around, but.
Oh, great. Thank you. So another question we received, how would I know when I'm creating loyal customers versus bribing them for their business?
Well, I mean, so it depends on the strategies that you have around your loyalty program, right? So if you're constantly discounting something, then yeah, you probably are just bribing them for their business, and the customers are waiting for that next discount. You see this at some retailers where, they run a sale every month or whatever, and the customers just wait. Hey, I'm not going to buy anything until the next sale. I think, some of the electronics retailers really run into that because, people really look for the discounts, the deep discounts on TVs and stereos and things like that. Well, if you're running a loyalty program, you'll be able to track what your customers are purchasing, when they're purchasing, how often they're coming in, and you'll be able to see that data that, they're coming in regardless of any offers. So, you can earn points, but you don't always redeem points. Some people bank those points. Some people don't earn enough yet to get to that next tier, and they come in infrequently enough that it doesn't really ever get up to the point that you're giving away much merchandise. But you'll be able to see what you're doing, and you'll be able to see the levers in the program, and you should be able to move those levers whenever you want to say, hey, I'm giving too many points away for this particular action, or I'm not giving enough points away because I'm not getting the actions that I want. So you should be able to ramp that up and down as needed, as long as you're communicating these different promotions or whatever within the program to the members.
All right. Let's see. Another thing came in. Okay. What are your thoughts on quote unquote rewards bucks, i.e., buying a certain amount today earns you $20 off your next purchase in a month?
What was the first part?
What are your thoughts on, and they put in air quotes, rewards bucks? So like spending a certain amount one day and then you get $20 off your next purchase in about a month.
Yeah, I mean, I truly think that you don't want to reward somebody with that first purchase or what you're doing today. You want to give them points towards something future. What I don't necessarily like is what I see with a lot of clothing retailers where you go in and you buy something and they give you these cards or these bucks and they say, hey, if you come back in tomorrow or within the next week, you're going to get 10% off your next thing or whatever. I mean, I think those are short term and it doesn't really create a long-term loyal customer. They're either going to come back in and accept that deal from you, or they're going to look at it as zero value because they know they're not going to come back in the next 2 or 3 weeks because they just bought what they needed, right? So, those types of plans I don't really like to see. I would much rather see something that is more far-sighted and trying to build a long-term relationship with that customer.
Great, thank you. Someone asked, what's one of your favorite loyalty programs?
Well, I'm a Marriott guy, so I love Marriott. If I'm going to a conference and the conference is at one hotel and the Marriott is within walking distance, I'm going to stay at the Marriott. And I think Marriott loves me. They've come up with some weird, like crazy, I'm like lifetime titanium ambassador, like 12 different things. I should have ribbons all the way across my chest for these guys. But yeah, I like those. And I like those programs like that because you do feel special when you get to that next tier and you can talk about, hey, I'm a platinum or whatever. And it's not even necessarily about the points. Like American Airlines is my go-to airline flying out of Orlando, and I bank those points. And I only use them occasionally when I'm going on personal vacation, when I have my kids or something. But I like to build that balance because they do the upgrades based on what level you are. And then if there's 10 people that want an upgrade at the same level you're at, then they pick who has the most points, right? So I want to be the guy with the most points at my level, so I get the upgrades. So that there are different ways to work any loyalty program as a consumer, and that's what it's all about. Is just understanding who your customer is and what you think is going to drive them.
Great, thank you. I'm also a big fan of Marriott, so I totally agree. You mentioned brand advocates. What's a good advocate doing, and what have been successful ways of rewarding them for their loyalty?
Yeah, so I mean, that was one of the base things. I don't want to be too salesy, but that was one of the base things that we were looking at when we spun Pollinate off of FPN and created its own entity. We were looking at, well, how do we do loyalty different today than what other people are doing? And that was really at the time when influencers and brand advocates were making a big push into social media and all that, and brands were paying influencers like, I don't know, the Kardashians or whatever, a lot of money just to have their bottled water sitting on their desk while they're yelling at somebody on a social media show or whatever. But we were looking at it going, well, how do we make somebody a real influencer, right? The other thing that drove that was why am I having a brain aneurysm, Hassam? The net promoter scores, right? Like a lot of franchisors were really pushing their net promoter scores and probably still do. And what I was watching was that they did a really good job of figuring out what went wrong with the detractors. So if you took that little short survey, usually it's about 3 questions, and it turns out you're a detractor of the brands are going to jump all over you and try to figure out what happened at that experience that we can fix. It's a smart thing to do, right? But the ones that were promoting, they weren't doing anything. The ones that said, hey, you did a great job on my last visit there. Nothing, not even a lot of times, not even a thank you for that, right? And so we looked at it and said, well, what could we do to turn those net promoters into real promoters? And so, we added a feature to the platform where when you go into a location and it'll automatically post to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever that you were there, and then your friends and family members will see it. And most people hang out with people that are very similar to themselves. So if you like frozen yogurt, your friends and family will probably like frozen yogurt. If you like chicken wings and beer, your friends and family probably like chicken wings and beer. So so what you're doing is you're promoting that brand to them on an infrequent basis when you're there, because it automatically posts if you as a consumer gave the brand the right to do that. And in that post, you put a link that says, hey, you joined the program. And then if that happens, that original customer gets rewarded.
Great. What do you think is the best loyalty program type or format for kids and teens?
For kids and teens, I guess I'd probably want to know more about the brand itself. And, are they, is it clothing? Is it food? Is it haircuts? And then, what's the culture of the brand? There are brands that are pretty conservative, and there's some that are very edgy. But, anytime you're dealing with, a younger audience, technology forward, make it fun. You can choose some gamification, if you will, of your loyalty program to get the kids involved. I mean, ultimately, it's the parent that's spending the money, but it's the kids that's telling the parent to spend the money. So you want to make sure that those kids are excited about the brand.
Great. The person who asked the question said that it's education. The brand would be education.
Yeah. So I'm sure that, in any kind of educational brand, they've probably got some sort of mascot or characters or whatever in there that cater to keeping the kids interested in it. And there's a way to work that into the program. And then take a look at what you're rewarding, right? So who are you rewarding? Do you really want to reward the parents who are making the payments and try to get them to bring more, kids in? I don't know. Or do you reward the kids? If you're rewarding the kids, they probably don't want more hours of education. They probably want something cool that may be attached to your brand that you could give them, some sort of swag, right? Whether it's backpacks, hats, maybe it's a partnership you have with another brand somewhere. So if you're in kids education, maybe you're giving away hamburgers or yogurt or something in partnership with another brand. But you want to do something that's going to make the kids excited and make them want to keep coming back, so that the parents will need to pay for that, right? So I really think that's kind of the path you would go, or maybe have 2 tiers and you're rewarding both kids and parents.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Were there any other questions that anyone had? You can go ahead and ask them in the questions or chat box. Give everyone a couple seconds. All right, I'm not seeing anything else come through, but if something does come through, I can just shoot that to you in an email, Tom. But thanks everybody so much for joining us today. This was a great webinar, and Tom, thank you for giving us your time this afternoon. If you guys have any questions for me, I'll go ahead and drop my email address in the chat box. So you can just go ahead and shoot me an email. And like I said before, this is recorded, so it'll be up on community.franchise.org later on this evening. Okay. Sorry, yeah, I thought we had some questions come in. So yeah, if you guys have any questions for me, just put my email in the chat, and you will be able to view this and share it with your colleagues once it's uploaded on community.franchise.org. Tom, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, not really. I just want to thank you, Sydney, for hosting, and thank everybody out there for your time. And again, yeah, if anything comes up that you wish you would have asked during the seminar, if you're reviewing it later or have questions, feel free to email me or Sydney, and one of us will get back to you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.